All right, viewers, let's get you an important voice to talk more about which way is the India-US trade relationship and the larger strategic relationship headed after Donald Trump's rants. And who better than Pramit Pal Chaudhuri joining us for more on this. Pramit, good to have you on the show. Let me start by asking you, what will be the kind of impact that these tariffs are likely to see, though they are going to kick in only on the 7th of August, but what do you think will be the impact?
So if you look at the tariffs that have been imposed, Trump has actually exempted half of our exports, or at least right now, no tariff has been imposed. Electronics, pharmaceuticals, which are in a separate investigation, so-called 232 investigation, as well as energy products, i.e. petroleum, mainly in our case, mainly petroleum products. So 50% of our exports are already not under this 25% tariff. But remember, what we are seeing is not a final agreement or a final decision. This is effectively a negotiating ploy, a hard negotiating ploy by the United States, by Trump, to force concessions from India on what are probably the last 3 or 4 remaining issues in the negotiations. So at least for 1 month, yes, those tariffs will remain, but the process, depending on what happens in the negotiating process, these tariffs could potentially be ended in a month's time.
The unusually harsh rants that have come in for Donald Trump. He's not a diplomatic person. He's known to speak his mind, but this is unusually harsh even by his standards.
So I think a couple of points to be made here. The negotiations that are stuck right now, if you want, are on dairy, soya, automobiles, and some other digital areas. Of these, soya and dairy are politically very important for President Trump. They're also important for Prime Minister Modi. But the MAGA support base that Trump has, the farmers in the middle America that have voted for him in Nebraska, Kansas, the Dakotas, they grow these crops. So this is very important for him, especially at a time when China, the single largest buyer of American soya in particular, has stopped buying them because it's part of their hardball negotiating tactics with the United States. So he's a little desperate, if you wish, for an alternative. So this is not just about trade. This is about his domestic politics. In the same way, obviously, that agriculture and soy is very much part of Prime Minister Trump's Prime Minister Modi's internal domestic political situation. So that's one element of it. But there is, you're right, an edge to this. Trump is not a diplomatic person. He abuses, and if you read, he abuses and curses people on a regular basis, including, the Prime Minister of Canada, the leaders of Europe, countries that are formal treaty allies of the United States. It's part of his negotiating style. If you read his book, The Art of the Deal, he always says that the game is to first get leverage on that other person. In other words, find some way to arm twist him, to get an edge on him, and then push and push and push and scream and shout and whatever. And then at the end of it, suddenly say, okay, we have a deal. And then shake hands and be all smiles and then move on to the next deal. So that's part of his negotiating style. It's one that a real estate developer, it might make sense. It, in my view, doesn't make sense with the president of the most powerful country in the world, but he is what he is.
Pramit, it's one aspect to actually rant when it comes to India. But the very public embrace of Pakistan, talking about, potential oil deals with Pakistan, how does that really, change the dynamic for India-US, especially in the wake of these very public embrace of Islamabad by the US?
I don't think it'll have much impact, in a sense that the optics are poor, but there is no substance between the US and Pakistan. If you want to put it this way, the Trump administration kind of works on 3 or 4 different levels. There is President Trump himself, who runs, if you wish to put it politely, a highly personalized form of policy making. And it's almost whimsical depending on what he gets interested in or excited about. Second is his family. And this is very important because his family is basically about making money. And I think this is a number of countries, including Pakistan. There's a very good article in the Economic Times about this, but other newspapers have reported this, that the family has created, for example, crypto funds, which are designed, the World Liberty Fund and so on, which are effectively designed to say, donate money to the family, and we can give you access to the president. And Pakistan has put an unusually large amount of money into those type of funds. So it's a reasonably cheap way, if you wish, to win access to the Oval Office. And I think this is one of the reasons why Trump is prepared to meet people like Munir, even though Munir has very little to offer. But then there is the rest of the administration, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the intelligence structure, all of whom, whether it's Tulsi Gabbard, even the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, very clear in their minds that India is the future partner that America needs to be working with, but they do not always control where the president goes, or I should say the president doesn't always listen to them. The problem for Pakistan is that these are the people who actually implement the policy, and they have no interest in Pakistan. They do not see Pakistan bringing anything to the table. Its economy is smaller than the city of Mumbai. It has incredible debt problems. It is on a permanent IMF drip. It's catering one crisis to another. Everybody, even in Pakistan, is laughing at the idea that they can find oil in Pakistan.
What do you think will be the way forward in the wake of the fact that there is tensions with regard to the India-US trading relationship, even though on the other aspects, the relationship is very robust and prospering?
So what seems to be the case, though, is that Trump has only one real agenda, and that's the trade deal, because that is his personal obsession, that using tariffs, I can reverse the deindustrialization, hollowing out of American manufacturing, because that is the core of his support, is these workers and so on who have lost out to globalization, or whatever you wish to call it. And so I must fulfill that. And I have a simple solution. I have it in the form of just tariffs. Most economists would argue that's simply not enough. His own vice president, when he was running as an independent presidential candidate, was asked about tariffs, and he said, no, we need to be focusing on education, on infrastructure. We have to make America more competitive. Trump is a little too impatient to go down that path, so he's just going to do tariffs. So we have a president who's obsessed with a trade deal. After that, he doesn't seem to actually have any other concerns. In other words, whatever we can tell is that if he gets his trade deal done, and when I've talked to people in his own administration, they basically indicated this, give the president his trade deal. After that, all of the other elements, the strategic relationship, the technology relationship, arguably the most important element of this, the investment, the defense, all of that goes back into the normal establishment structures, the normal ministries, the line ministries, and those will explode. I mean, they will go on in the midst of all of this crazy stuff on the trade front, right? ISRO and NASA launched the world's most expensive satellite. The US State Department and Homeland Security sanction the perpetrator, the terrorist organization from Pakistan that carried out the Pahalgam attacks. America is still offering us a whole set of weapon systems, which they are not offering Pakistan, and so on and so forth. It's almost like you're having this bizarre dichotomy of a mad king at the top running around while his courtiers and the rest of the kingdom are basically functioning just like a perfect normal state.
Indeed, everybody is, and so are we right here, and we're going to decode that. But thanks so much, Pramit Pal Chaudhuri, for joining us on this edition of India Sense.